Hello, welcome to DePaul Web Development's fourth workshop where we're going to be going over the HTML, CSS, and JavaScript fundamentals. And for this one, we're going to be mostly doing it's going to be all a live coding session where we're going to be talking about how to make a portfolio. So I'm going to be using Vite, I'm going to be using Tailwind, so I'm just going to cd into my desktop. We're going to do React, we're going to do JavaScript. Alright. We're going to do npm install. And then we're going to install Tailwind. For this first part, honestly, we're also going to be touching a bit on GitHub because I still want to make sure that everyone remembers how GitHub works, how to initialize your repo, how to do all that stuff. So once I finish installing this, I'm going to run a initialize the Git repository. Okay, so we're going to do git init, initialized, perfect, and then I'm going to do git add period. Okay. Okay, perfect. So then, what we're going to do is we're going to run code period, open this up. Open back up our terminal. And you can see this is where our initial commit is. So now, what we got to do is we go to our GitHub. Gonna do this. I'm gonna make a web dev portfolio. And we don't need to add any of this. Just create the repo. Copy this. And we do git remote add origin. Perfect. Git branch main. And then git push u origin main. Perfect. And there we go. So now we've got this initialized. You know, everything's looking great so far. So now we need to actually initialize our Tailwind. Honestly, I don't remember how to do this, so I'm just gonna look it up. Perfect. Okay, and then we're just gonna. I'm also gonna remove the assets because I don't really care about that. App.css. I'm also gonna remove this, and I'm just gonna remove all of this. Add import. At least I think that's how you do it. Yeah. Let's do npm run dev. Oh yeah. Gotta change this. Gonna remove all of this actually. Do not need any of this. Do like a basic hello world. There you go. Hello world, we could see. Let's make this. Okay, so let's just quickly, yeah, commit everything that we need. Added Tailwind configuration. Let's commit, sync the changes. Let's go to our GitHub. And we can see everything works just fine. Okay, so cutting forward, what I did was I stopped recording. I started just writing out the HTML code. Um, this is all purely HTML, so I'm going to talk about what exactly I did. So this is what this looks like. I know this is all just HTML, but I'm gonna go through the actual semantic structure. So we're starting with the header. I'm using a header tag instead of a div because it's semantic HTML right here. So search engines understand this is the page header, and so inside of here we have the nav for our navigation, and then we have an unordered list for the menu items right here, and that makes up our navigation. So then moving down in the main content area, I'm using the main tag, which tells browsers and screen readers this is the primary content of the page. So first section right here is the hero. Simple H1 with my name, job title, location, and a brief description, and then the get in touch link points to the contact section using an anchor link. All of this, super simple. So then, covering the next section, which is experience, each job is wrapped in an article, which is this, and then there's another one down here, because each job is a standalone piece of content. So inside of each article, I'm also using a header to group the job title, company, and dates, and then the time element is great for SEO. Search engines understand that these are dates. So whenever you use time, this is really good for robots that crawl through your website. This is really good for indexing. This is really good for SEO. So then, next part is projects, and it pretty much works the same way. Each project is an article. So we've got this article here, this one down here, and this other article. Each project is an article with a header containing the title and date, which is this. And then project descriptions, text stack listed simply, and placeholder links for demos and GitHub. Very, very simple. This is realistically everything that you need for a project section. Just the name of the project, how long you've been working on it, like how long has this been going, simple description, and then the tools you used, and then links so that a technical recruiter can go to your GitHub, see what the code is used, and then a non-technical recruiter can also do a live demo to look at what you've made and stuff like that. That's kind of the idea. So then there is the education section. So a lot of people really overcomplicate the education section. It really doesn't have to be that bad. You literally just have to put down what degree you're getting from what university and what year you are, which you could do through just a time. And that's it. You don't need to list anything else. Most recruiters tend to not really care about what classes you've taken, and the only reason I say that is because there are people who have taken, like, there's people who could just cheat through classes. So, a highly technical recruiter isn't really going to care what classes you've taken. Instead, they're just going to ask you the question. So, like, instead of them being like, an interview isn't going to be like, oh, did you take an operating systems class? Yes? Okay, well, then I'm not going to ask you any questions. No, they're just going to ask you the question. So, most recruiters don't really care about what courses you've taken, really. They just want to know if you're getting a degree or not. Anyways, so then the skills section is organized into three categories with simple, unordered lists. It's just very clean and scannable. Nothing crazy going on here. These are just all the skills that are being listed. And then the context section uses the address tag specifically for contact information, and external links have this little target equals underscore blank to open up a new tabs. Very, very simple and clean. And then the footer with copyright is also just very simple. This whole structure uses semantic HTML throughout. When we talk about SEO and robots.txt, I'll talk about robots.txt later. This semantic structure is what helps search engines understand and rank your content properly. And then in the next section, I'm going to actually add styling to this. I'm going to slowly add styling to this, and then we're going to see how this looks later on. So I've cut to this part where I added all the tailwind that's needed. So first thing is look at the top of our component. We're defining a bunch of const variables for all of our repeated styles. And this is way better than copying and pasting code because we just have to change one thing in any of these variables and then they get changed everywhere else. So this is way better than copying and pasting the same classes everywhere. Very, very convenient. I mean, and it can be a bit confusing whenever you add a lot, but as long as you name everything properly, it should be just fine. So like our const section header styles is just the headers of all of our sections. The project title styles is just the title of our projects. And the link styles, this is just the styling of all of our links. So you can see here whenever I highlight this, it highlights the nav as well. So then, let's talk about the actual CSS concepts here. So we've got Flexbox. So our nav bar uses Flexbox. You can read it right here. That's Flexbox. So flex, justify between, item center, that's Flexbox. Justify between spreads items apart, and then item center vertically centers them. So then, the next part, past Flexbox, there's also the grid layout. And you can see here, we got const grid layout styles. So, we click on this, we scroll down, and we go to the experience section. So, we've got 4 columns, dates get 1 column, content gets 3. That's why you see this, if you scroll a bit down, you see this, call span 3. This tells Flexbox that this content, this div spans 3 columns, and then this one above only does 1. So the dates get 1 column, content gets 3, and then the grid handles both horizontal and vertical alignment. And then just basic box model basics, paddings and margin. You can see throughout this entire thing there's a lot of margins. Section for padding styles, you can see here. We have this on every single section. Every single section gets this sort of padding. PY24. What this means is this is padding top and bottom. And then PX8 is padding left and right. MB is margin bottom. So whenever you read MB, that's margin bottom. And then you read PX, that's padding left and right. PY is padding top and bottom. And so on. So these control spacing and how elements relate to each other. And then, if we go down to our skills section, so we're using Flexbox here again, but the items wrap to new lines when they run out of space. So therefore, you don't really need any breakpoints. And this can be really powerful because writing breakpoints can be very tedious, but if you use flex wrap, it simply just wraps everything onto a new line. So instead of having to hard code multiple lines, you simply just have to put in flex wrap. And you can see that we're doing on this entire div. We make all of these skills a flex container, and then we put flex wrap. And then for our navigation, on top of what I already mentioned about it being a flex container, we also made it a sticky container. So what exactly does that mean? If you do sticky and then top dash 0, which is this, then that makes the nav bar stay at the top when you scroll. And then it's very important because as the user scrolls, they can click through the sections that they want to go to. And then with every single button that you have, every single nav link that you use, you should have a hover effect. That's why for every single link style, we have this and this transition for colors. So, after all this tailwind, again, none of this was really that complicated. This is just a bunch of colors being thrown together. There wasn't that much designing going on. There's no Figma prototype. Overall, the key thing is doing this to make sure that you do not have to rewrite a bunch of CSS or a bunch of Tailwind classes. You could just put them inside of a const variable, and this is the final outcome for this. This is just the HTML and CSS. So, starting from the very top is the hero. Hey, your name, what you do, where you're from, um, just a little short about me, what you do, and then people can click this, get in touch to get to your contact section if needed. But we go back to the top. This is your experience, so how long you've been doing this, and then what the actual place was, what you did, and then your previous jobs, stuff like that, very standard. Then your projects, what you did, and then you can see here, this is the tech stack. There's a live demo, GitHub, and then over here, more projects that you worked on. Education, very straightforward. Technical skills, front end, back end, your cloud tools, contact, and then it's just your LinkedIn and GitHub. Super simple stuff, really not that complicated. It looks a lot more complicated, but in reality, this is just about 300 lines of code, which is not that bad. This is really, really not that bad. And then after this, we're going to talk about JavaScript fundamentals. Okay, so now let's add some JavaScript to make this interactive. So we're going to implement two features, a theme toggle and a copy email functionality. So first, let's look at React state management. At the top, we have a use state for both of these. We have it for a theme, for set theme. This tracks our current theme, right here. This is how we track what our current theme is. The theme toggle function is simple. Check the current theme, and then if the button is clicked, you flip it. And then you update the state, and then save that state to your local storage, so it persists between visits. So, very, very simple. That's all this is. You're pretty much saying, this new theme, is it dark? Okay, then make it light. Is it dark? No, it's not dark. Okay, then let's make it dark. That's all this is. Every time you click the button, it flips it because it can either be light or it can be dark. So that's really simple. But then the copy email one. So copy email uses the browser's clipboard API, which is this navigator, that clipboard that write text, as you can see right here. So no, this doesn't use any external libraries. So when it's clicked, it copies the email and shows feedback for 2 seconds using the set timeout, which is this. And all it says is just says, yep, email copied, and that's it. Two very simple things. Little to no JavaScript. You really don't need to know that much. Um, yeah, this is very simple JavaScript code, but it's also extremely important to have stuff like this because it really does help elevate your portfolio and make it interactive. So then, you can also see here, there's the use effect hook. The use effect hook runs on component mount to load the saved theme from local storage. This is how we remember the user's preferences. Very, very simple. And then, for the UI, we're using conditional rendering based on the isDark variable, which is right here. All our const variables at the top now use ternary operators. And what that means is is right here. You can see it. Are we in the dark theme? Okay, make the border like this. Are we in light theme? Okay, then use this. So all of our styles use this sort of ternary operator. Pretty much saying if it's dark mode, use a light color. If it's light mode, use a dark color. That's all that this is reading. So looking through some of these examples, if it's dark, okay then, make the text zinc 300. Is it dark? No, we're in light mode. Okay then. If it's light mode, use zinc 700. All this really is. Very, very simple. And then, if we look at the email button, we added a clipboard icon and a title attribute for the tooltip. So, if we scroll all the way down to the contact, right here, you can see we added a clipboard icon right here. Very simple, just an emoji, and then a title attribute for the tooltip. And then the theme button, also at the top, we have it flipped between a sun and a moon right here. This is another ternary operator. If it's dark theme, we show this. If it's not dark, then we show this. So, what does this actually look like? This is it. So, we're currently in dark theme. We click on light. Now we're in light theme. Everything turns dark. Very, very, very simple. And then if you scroll to the bottom, you can see here, email copied. Then we type in the perfect. So, that pretty much wraps it all up. I'm gonna publish this repo, gonna edit the video, and hopefully this taught everyone something. Hopefully that this was worth everyone's time, and if needed, I could always answer questions.